It's a Teen Talks Kitten podcast where I embarrass myself. Hello, and welcome to episode number 124 of 18 Talks Kitten podcast. My name is Van Gogh. I hope you guys are doing very, very well. It's not actually officially summer, I guess, but it definitely feels like it's summer because it's getting so hot where I live, and definitely trying to drink a lot of water. But it's actually getting so hot. It's actually unbearable. It's in the hundreds in Fahrenheit. I don't know what that is in Celsius, and I have quite a few. I have for some reason, not for some reason, I love it, but there's a lot of people from not from I guess the U.S. According to Spotify. But anywho, I don't know what that is in Celsius, but it's really hot. But what am I supposed to say before this? Oh yeah, follow, share, like. That's so cringy. Spotify actually showed me some like statistics or something, and like there's been like consistent like returning viewership. Does that make sense? And so if you're like constantly watching these episodes, listening to these episodes, shout out to you. You're great. And a lot of the episodes, a lot of people watch either most of it or all of it. I'm just like, oh, okay. I mean, if you like to watch it, go ahead. But thank you so much for everyone who like has repeated listens. I'm very glad to see that, some people are actually fans of this podcast. And whatnot. But yeah, I guess we should get started with our main episode and stuff. So yeah, let's go do that. Okay, let's go do that. Or no, program of the week. Oops, program of the week. Program of the week. Okay, everyone, our program of the week this week is a very, very fun program. I feel like this is a really, I don't know, it's a program that I would like to skate myself. I feel like the skater works so well with that. It's one of those programs where I just feel like it's very well put together, very cohesive, very fun, very fast as well. And that is Natasha Mackay of Great Britain and her 2022 Winter Olympics short program, the music Sea Lion by Feist. She didn't end up qualifying to free skate this event, but this short program is really, really fun. Sea Lion by Feist, very upbeat song. I think very unusual song to pick for figure skating. Lots of electric guitar, lots of vocals, lots of interesting rhythms in it, lots of irregular rhythms in it. And so I think Natasha Mackay does like a fantastic job with this choreography. I don't know who choreographed it. I believe it was her coaches. Let me search up who the choreographer of the program was. Choreographer. It was Mark Pillay. Okay. It was Mark Pillay who choreographed this program, but very nice program. She starts off in her starting pose, start ending pose. She starts off in her starting pose and she holds that pose for like a couple, like 5 seconds, I would say. And like, is she gonna start? And then she just gets up and starts. You know what I mean? Like she's just holding herself, and the music's already going, and then she starts, and then I love this moment where in the very beginning, choreo, she's skating backwards and then she stops and then starts skating on her tippy toes backwards. And she's kind of leaning over, skating on her tippy toes, and then she skates forward with tons of speed as she heads into her crossovers. All throughout the crossovers, I mean, she has this laser focused stare at the judges. And again, this is a program that is a little more fun, but also serious at the same time, and just she performs it with such conviction, I would say. Very like intense stare at the camera. I feel like it's very well done. Lots of arm movements as well. She does fall on the triple loop, unfortunately, but that's okay. She gets the triple sow, double toe loop done. There's another moment in her crossovers where she almost uses her arms like frame her face. Does that make sense? Which I also feel like is a very like unique choreographic moment. There's, a moment where she is between the sow toe loop and the double axel. She kind of has like skates in a circle and she kind of leans over and she's kind of flailing her arms intentionally. Does that make sense? Very cool. The music heads into this electric guitar riff, and she starts her camel spin right on the beat with it. When that rhythm changes, she changes the position of her camel spin. So that's a very beautiful addition. Holds that camel spin position very nicely. Does it in the corner of the rink. Again, very interesting placement of everything. She does another spin. No, she doesn't do that. She does a step sequence, and the step sequence is again lots of electric guitar, lots of vocals, and it's very wild, very uninhibited. Is that how you say that word? Wild, uninhibited, very energetic, obviously. It almost does feel like improv, but not, if that makes sense. But it's such a very well choreographed piece, very well done with the arms. And again, unique placements, everything, unique edges. And she skates so dang fast. Last two spins as well, very good spins, a very nice sit spin, and the last spin as well. But so much fun performance. She's smiling, she's staring, she's serious, she's having fun, she's dancing back and forth. I just think it's a great program, and I love the music. I love how unique it is. I love how Natasha Mackay performs it. So yeah, definitely go check it out. And I love the dress as well. Definitely go check it out. Natasha Mackay, her 2022 Winter Olympics trip program to Sea Lion by Feist, a very good one. Definitely worthwhile a watch, a worthwhile watch. Yes. Now let's head over to our main episode. That was your program of the week. All right, everybody, let's head over to our main episode for the week. Um, this episode, again, it's the summertime. I really thought that, Grand Prix assignments would come out this week, but I think I really am like misinformed. Not misinformed, but I was a little wrong. Because apparently they're coming out next week, according to Rocker Skating, Jackie Wong at Rocker Skating, that Grand Prix assignments might be coming out next week. And so obviously I was waiting for Grand Prix assignments to come out so I could analyze them and everything. But oh well. So I just came up with another video essay. I mean, I have a running list of episode ideas if that kind of just fit in wherever, like whenever I want to make an episode that is not during competition season. And so, I have a running list of ideas, and so this is one of them. But this is actually kind of two ideas combined into one episode. It started with one idea and then it turned into two ideas. And I was like, do I want to do two different episodes or do I need to do one episode? And both the ideas are kind of related, and I feel like I can't talk about one without the other one. So I don't know. That's how we ended up here. But today is a video essay episode. I know that we literally have been doing video essays for a lot now, but that's kind of just because there's no competitions. During competition season, I don't get the time, I feel like, to analyze like the big issues in the sport, the big ideas and fundamental parts of the sport outside of the actual competitions. And so I love doing these like critical thinking, critical analyses of the figure skating world after the actual season is over, which it is now. So anyway, but I'm starved for figure skating content. Like we need to do it. We need to do it. Okay. So again, one episode idea turned into two episode idea, but today we're essentially going to talk about the economics of figure skating and kind of the issue of money in figure skating, and then I'm going to talk about how it directly impacts the skaters themselves, and then I'm also going to talk about what skaters do after retirement, because I feel like those ideas are all kind of related together. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Does that make sense? I think I have actually talked about the idea of the issue of money before, the problem of money in figure skating somewhere before. And so that's why it's not like a fully fleshed out episode. I don't know, I don't know. But like I think I've talked about this before. I believe it was in one of the episodes where I was criticizing the American figure skating world. But this episode is kind of just like in general, like all figure skaters, like in general, are kind of struggling with money, and it's very common to see that. So I don't know if I have actually talked about this before. Maybe I'm hallucinating and I dreamed about it or something, but if the deja vu is bad, that's what I'm saying. I feel like I've done it, but maybe I haven't. I don't know. But today we're going to talk about the economics of figure skating. I have never actually taken an economics class in my life yet, so bear with me. It's not really even economics, it's more like finances, I guess. But it's like microeconomics or something like that. Like, how does it affect the actual people in this market and getting jobs and stuff? But basically, we'll be talking about money in figure skating and how that really affects skaters, but also I feel like the ISU, and in turn, if money affects skaters in the ISU, I feel like money also affects the audience. Does that make sense? Okay, long intro, but basically the giant issue of money in figure skating. So this was a topic that kind of came up in Reddit. There was, some discussion because the ISU was having their Congress, their giant meeting, and they're discussing issues of figure skating, but also speed skating, short track, synchronized skating, etc. But there was some data that user ancient raised 4939 and user underscore exegy underscore collected, and they say that the most amount of money that you can win for one skater, okay, for one skater, a single skater. We're not even gonna talk about ice dance because ice dance is a whole nother, and ice dance in Paris, I mean, is a whole nother debacle. But the most money you can win as a single skater right now, apparently, is $146,000 per season. And that's assuming that you win again every competition that you enter. And that's like the standard amount of competitions that you would enter. So your two Grand Prix, the Grand Prix final, either four continents or Europeans and worlds. And if you did go to the Challenger Series and you won the Challenger Series, not just the event, but the whole thing, I think somebody said that it was actually $4,000 more or something, which again is not a lot. Um, and so that doesn't count nationals, that doesn't count any other minor competitions that a skater might do. I don't think, there's like a big prize pool for a lot of those minor competitions that aren't a challenger series or anything. There's not a huge prize pool either for nationals or anything. And so, yes, again, the max amount of money you could win, assuming that you win every single competition that you enter, every single competition, is $146,000. And it sounds great. It sounds great. $146,000. It sounds pretty good. Kind of. But you have to think that most skaters are not winning every competition. I mean, very, very few skaters have ever had a season where they win every single competition that they enter. I mean, literally, I can't tell you. Like Nathan Chen is someone who has won every competition he's entered in season before. I honestly can't tell you. Like most skaters are not winning every competition. Most skaters are, not even going to every competition. A lot of skaters end up skipping four continents. Like Ilya Malinin, for example, has historically been skipping four continents because it's just like another competition. Um, Most skaters are not winning. So the prize money does go down. I remember at Worlds I saw once that only the top 10 get prize money. So if you aren't placing in the top 10 of figure skaters in the world, you are not getting prize money. If you don't place in the top 10 or maybe it's the top 12, I can't remember, but there's a top something. And it does go down. You're not getting the same amount of money from first place as you get as at 10th place, right? It's not like that. It's like it's no. So most skaters are obviously not winning every competition. Most skaters are not making the $146,000 in prize money every year. Even if you did win every single competition, this sport is, crazy expensive. And $146,000 is like, it's good. It's for sure good. Paying your coaches, paying for ice time and travel and equipment is huge. But you have to consider that these skaters are, a lot of them have figure skating as kind of their job. They're also using $146,000 to pay for probably their housing and probably for their accommodations and probably for their food and probably for all these other things that are super crucial as well. Especially in the off season where they're not traveling around, they're not going to competitions, they need a home, they need to do things, right? Um, and then even then, like lots of skaters, have their own families. Lots of skaters have other things. Lots of skaters go to school that they have to pay for as well. What was the other point I was going to make? And so yeah, $146,000 sounds like a great big salary for one skater if again, for one skater, if they win every competition a year in the year that they compete, but it's certainly not a lot in the grand scheme of things. I remember there was an interview with Arthur Liu, who is Alyssa Liu's father, and he estimated that he had spent, I think, $1 million on her skating career alone. For one person, he spent himself $1 million on her career to get her to be one of the top skiers in the world. And if she's winning, winning or almost winning every competition she's entered, and she's only making $146,000, I mean, it doesn't really add up in that sense. And I'm going to talk about other ways of making money, if that makes sense, later. But if you were just relying on the prize money alone, it's not enough. That's the point I'm trying to get at. Now, I would say not really the problem, but that it gets down to a different kind of scheme of things in pairs and ice dance, where the prize money for pairs and ice dance is actually higher, but it's not high enough where it's supposed to be evenly split between the two partners. And so even if the prize money is higher, like each individual person is making less because it's split into two people, if that makes sense. Less than like a single skater would. And again, again, lots of expenses for coaches and ice time and travel, etc. And those two people in the partnership are, probably using that money as well to pay for other things in life, their houses, their schooling, etc. And so $146,000 is really nothing in the grand scheme of things. I'm not saying it's nothing. Of course, it's a ton of money, but for prize money compared to other sports, comparing to other sports, I mean, if you watch other sports, you know how much money, like, you probably have heard crazy amount of money. And, a lot of those players, maybe in the NFL and the NBA and the MLB, they probably make a yearly salary or they have like a yearly contract or something like that where they get like money guaranteed, if that makes sense. Not guaranteed, but they have a contract. This is how much I'm gonna pay you for this amount of time to be on this team, and they get drafted, and it's a huge media event, and they get tons of money from their appearances and their playing and everything. And so $146,000 is certainly not what a lot of people are making in other sports. I would also love to compare this to like tennis, for example. I mean, for tennis, for winning like one tournament, one Grand Slam tournament, I mean, depending on which one, I mean, it's like millions. It's like millions of dollars for winning a tournament, a Grand Slam tournament. And there's other tiers. I mean, I know for women's tennis, for example, there's like prize money. Like you can get $250,000 for winning this tournament that was only 1 week. Of course, it's also a very difficult sport. Of course, there's tons of other expenses. Of course, there's lots of issues in the financial scheme of tennis, but compared to figure skating, tennis is a much more lucrative sport if you are that person who does continuously win everything. Um, and I feel like there's more prominence in tennis in general, so there's probably more funds to go around and things. So that's a whole other thing. Yeah, and so obviously a lot of figure skaters I feel like are struggling with money. We've seen it. I mean, we have seen so many skaters like struggling, and they've been very open about the sport. They've been very open about how there is no, annual payment. There's no annual salaries. It's really not a traditional job, of course. I think we've seen tons of posts everywhere about so and so is doing a GoFundMe, so and so is going Indiegogo. Is that what it is? Lots of skaters, asking the community, asking the people around them to help fund their skating. I mean, we've heard so many stories as well. I feel like of parents like not having a ton of money, so they end up selling their home. They move into a smaller home just so their kid can pursue this crazy, crazy, crazy expensive sport. Um, I remember during the 2018 Olympics and during the 2022 Olympics as well, I believe, Luna Hendricks from Belgium, she famously did a lot of spaghetti nights in Belgium with different restaurants just to help pay for the funding to go to the Olympics. I mean, she was an Olympic level athlete. She had been in top 10 at World. She had all these crazy achievements, and still she was, not being funded. And yeah. Side note, is she retiring? I hope not. I hope Luna Hendricks doesn't retire. But like there's like so little funding for figure skating as well. I don't know what like the pay scale is for each and every individual country, but some skaters do not get any funding from their federation at all. Some skaters might get a little bit of funding from their federation, but I don't, it's certainly not a ton of money. More of a stipend kind of thing to skate for the federation, be on the national team and things. Um, and so tons of other skaters have to work other jobs, do other opportunities, and figure out other solutions that I feel like other athletes in other sports do not, maybe when it's a more popular sport and things. It's a whole issue. Lots of skaters take up, skating related jobs. Choreography, coaching for younger skaters is a really common thing. They do a lot of classes. We've seen a lot of classes from, I don't know, skaters like Jason Brown have done classes. I think they're like, just to raise a little money, have a little income, things like that. Media opportunities, I think media opportunities are the most lucrative thing. And I'm sure, there's money involved when skaters go on to do these interviews, skaters go on to get sponsored by this company or that company, or they get money to appear in this event or that event, right? Um, so yeah, I mean, a lot of skaters are taking advantage of those media opportunities. But if you're not a skater who is unfortunately not maybe in a very prominent country, who doesn't have extremely prominent results, you haven't won, you haven't became Olympic champion yet. I mean, you might not have access to these big media opportunities and be able to get the funding and resources that go along with those. A lot of skaters have talked about taking up other jobs, and that's a very common thing that we've seen. Danny O'Shea from the US. He's a pair skater. Apparently, he's into house flipping, and that's what he's been doing to help fund his pairs career, which I think is really awesome. But of course, like if there was a ton of money in figure skating and skaters were getting paid a lot. I mean, Danny O'Shea is a world class level figure skater. He's been top 10 at Worlds. He's been top 10 at the Olympics now. He's skated for a super long time. Maybe he wouldn't have to, gosh, my computer. Maybe he wouldn't have to, do other things that take away from his career and take away from his skating, or, take up a lot of time that he could be using for his personal life and things. And I feel like that's just one example of many of skaters, making large sacrifices, them, their families, their friends, making large sacrifices so that they can very much continue their figure skating career. Of course, a lot of skaters take up tour life during the summer, during the off season. We just had Stars on Ice. Oh my god, my throat. We just had Stars on Ice in the US with the entire Olympic team and Jason Brown, who should have been at the Olympic team, but um, who and Stars on Ice, they did a whole tour, and I'm sure they're compensated for it. I don't remember who said it. Oh gosh, I don't remember who said it, but I remember seeing an interview a long time ago that some skaters said that they made like significantly more, and I mean like 2, 3 times more in 2, 3 months on tour compared to the 8, 7, 8 months of the figure skating season. They make significantly more on tour and all the media appearances that come with touring life, and so that's a big thing as well that skaters are doing to fund their skating. But, obviously none of this has exact numbers to it compared to the actual competitions. They're not like publicly available. I don't know how much money these skaters are getting to go tour, how much money they're getting at their jobs, or how much money they're getting with all these media opportunities that they do. But keep in mind that again, figure skating is, in this sense, a very much a career, and they're paying for their housing, they're paying for their food, they're paying for the coaches and the ice time and all the equipment and everything. And some skaters themselves are, they're even students, they're studying, and they're, hoping for a better future, hoping for a, successful career after the world of figure skating is over, after their figure skating careers are over. And so money is a huge, huge issue in figure skating. And so, struggling all throughout your career, I mean, I feel like it does come into play when skaters consider retirement, which is kind of the next topic of this episode. I'm sure that, because of money, because of the financial cost of things, that skaters choose to retire. That has to be a factor into play, right? I mean, it's such a financially, economically taxing sport, and I'm sure a lot of skaters take that into account when they consider to retire or not, especially with injury. I mean, if you get injured, I mean, suddenly you're paying like giant medical bills, and I'm sure, I mean, in the US, I guess, I don't know, in other countries, but in the US at least, if you're getting injured, I mean, you're paying, giant medical bill, and that adds on to the cost of skating as well. And so I guess when skaters are weighing whether to continue or not, are they satisfied with their career? Are they happy with all the achievements they made? Are they looking for anything more in terms of achievements? But also, probably more than likely, can they financially continue skating? Which is a big deal. I feel like that's a big question that is, thrown around but not necessarily highlighted enough, I feel like, to really highlight the issue of figure skaters kind of struggling with money. And we've seen lots of examples of that, that I discussed earlier. And so, when you're in retirement, let's say you choose to retire because, figure skating is financially not it. So what do skaters do after retirement? Because I'm sure a lot of them might have debt that they need to pay, might have, lingering thoughts about what to do in their life that is a little bit more financially stable than the world of figure skating. Um, Things like that. So a lot of figure skaters go to get a regular job, and I mean like they get a regular job in the sense that they're not a competitive athlete anymore. And I think this just comes from the fact like I feel like there's two things, right? Because when you get a regular job, I feel like the financial aspect is probably a lot more stable than figure skating itself, and not being sure if you'll win this or win that, or if you'll make lots of prize money from this competition or get this appearance on a media thing or go on this show and things like that to get paid in that sense. And so I think a lot of skaters also they have dreams outside their skating that they want to pursue. They've, pursued skating. They've made figure skating their life for 20 years and now they're done with skating. They announced their retirement and now they want a regular job. And I feel like that's something very normal. They want to pursue something outside of things, outside of the world of figure skating. Nathan Chen, for example, is going to medical school to become a doctor, which is amazing. Sasha Cohen is a banking associate, apparently. Michelle Kwan was randomly, and I mean very, 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 very randomly, the US ambassador to Belize. Actually don't know how she got into these kinds of things, but you go, Michelle Kwan. Brian Boitano owns a lot of different bars and he does a lot of different media appearances and things. Lots of skaters. So while we have Walter Virtanen from Finland who is still skating, but he's a medical doctor on the side, which is the coolest thing ever. Lots of skaters who are retired. Who else has retired and has gone into kind of a regular job outside of figure skating? I don't know. But tons of skaters obviously choose to have a more normal life. And Debbie Thomas became a doctor, things like that, right? They choose to have a different career path and a different life path. And I'm sure the salary is a lot more stable compared to the world of figure skating. All right. Next thing that skaters often do after retirement, get a coaching slash coaching slash choreography job. I mean, so many coaches and choreographers now are former skaters. I know that a lot. I don't know. I've seen a few things that say, "Oh, so and so coach charges this much. So and so coach charges this much. This choreographer will charge this much for the short program and this much for the free program." And I remember the numbers, being quite big. And so if you're on, I guess freelance, I guess would be kind of the term. If you're on commission or maybe you work for a specific rink as a coach, I'm sure that the money is again a lot more stable than going out to compete yourself. And so, no wonder why a lot of coaches and choreographers were former skaters who retired, but they wanted to stay connected to the sport. But at the same time, they want to stay financially stable and, have a job at a rink or have a job choreographing this many programs a year and getting, so this much money from it. And so we have coaches like Brian Orser, for example, who used to be a skater himself, Carolina Costner, coaching Yuma Kageyama for a while, and she's working with other skaters. um yeah, I feel like it's actually very rare. I can't even think of an example on the top of my head when there's a coach that wasn't already a skater themselves in the past, wasn't already a skater in the past, or had some experience in that sense. Choreographers as well, Lori Nichols, Shaylin Bourne. I mean, they're very famous examples of choreographers. There's coaches and choreographers like Barbara Fuser-Poli in Italy, who was an ice dancer. Now she's working as an ice dance coach. Lots of examples like that. And so again, staying connected to the sport but making a more stable income probably, and not even they don't even have to be prominently involved with like the world class skaters, the Olympians, the world competitors, things like that. I mean, lots of skaters are working with younger kids, the next generation. Mirai Nagase has posted lots of videos and things of working with younger skaters, which I feel like is a great thing as well. And so a lot of skaters, tend to stay involved, working with younger kids, working with older kids, working with the Olympians of today, and I'm sure they're probably getting more money for it than if they again were skating around and trying to win every competition to get their money's worth and things. All right. Another thing that skaters often do is to get a commentary job. I will say this, I feel like commentary is a lot more limited than coaching, obviously, but again, tons of the commentators on figure skating are former skaters themselves. I mean, we have the icon Belinda Noonan from Australia, who was a former Australian figure skater, and now she does amazing commentary for Australia as well as the world feed at the Olympics. She's a former figure skater, and she obviously going to commentating commentary jobs, you have that knowledge of the sport already. You were, a competitor yourself, you have that knowledge, and so you're certainly able to relay that information to the audience and things. We have people like Ted Barton from Canada, who was a skater in his time as well. Both Tara Lipinski and Johnny Ware were both skaters, and now they do commentary for NBC. And so I think commentary is, definitely not coaching or choreography, but it gets that job that's maybe more media focused. But again, still really involved with figure skating and things. Okay, still very much involved with figure skating, which is a good thing to do. I think a lot of skaters also try to stay relevant in that celebrity space. I mean, we have skaters who I feel like are already celebrities. I feel like Alyssa Liu is like the prime time example right now. She is such a celebrity. I feel like she's been being invited to all these like high media, high press events this season, and I feel like after this season, and she's been into so many shows, and she's done so many interviews, and you know, I'm sure there's tons of money in those kinds of opportunities working with the media, doing different interviews, getting different sponsorships. I mean, she got like, what brand was it that she got? Like, wasn't it like Ralph? No, it wasn't Ralph Lauren. It was Armani Exchange, or it was some really, it was a Louis Vuitton. Was it Louis Vuitton? I can't remember. But Alyssa, you got that sponsorship, which is, definitely great for her for the fashion, but good for the bank too, right? Good for the bank. I feel like Tara Lipinski and Johnny Ware again have stayed very relevant in the celebrity space, kind of in the media space, where even though they are formerly figure skaters, they've done things like beyond non-skating related things. Dancing with the Stars, for example, they were on a show called The Traders, which apparently was a really big hit with them too on it. Tara Lipinski has her own podcast. Johnny Weir has been involved in different fashion things. He has been doing commentary for Eurovision Song Contest as well. I mean, lots of different opportunities out there that I think that, these skaters have become celebrities in their own sense. They've been very involved in these things, and then they are in these big opportunities for themselves, which is great. Adam Rippon, too, I feel like has stayed very relevant. He's been on Dancing with the Stars. He has two podcasts, I believe. He has his own podcast, and he has the Run Through. He has worked for NBC and in different media, celebrity kind of things. He's been doing interviews with skaters, interviews at these different competitions, ground field jobs at the Olympics, things like that. I mean, the list goes on and on with all the different opportunities that these skaters get after retirement that, again, probably make them more money. I don't know for sure, but they probably get more money from these events than, things like try to compete at all these different things. And of course, after retirement, a lot of skaters, they go start families, they go to school, they go on cool trips, all things that normal people do. And by normal people, I mean people who are not jumping in the air and landing on a tiny blade. And so, if you're able to get all these different opportunities outside of skating after you retire, it's great. But I mean, the idea that you're making less money, I don't know. The thing is, like part of me is conflicted because I'm like, okay, like it's just not enough, but because like there's no viewers, there's no money going into the sport. But there's no saying like I don't know how much money the ISU has, and like if they do are making a lot of money from all these events, like how much of it is really going towards the skaters themselves. I mean, I want to see percentages, I want to see kind of things. A lot of these people again probably make more money doing whatever it is they do now, a regular job, coaching, commentary, media stuff, compared to what they were making when they were skating. Jobs pay more than figure skating for sure, and of course, there's less cost when you're not funding your own coach, you're not funding ice time, you're not funding your equipment and everything. And so that, when Arthur Liu said he spent $1 million on his daughter's career, I mean, that's a lot of money. And so you're certainly paying a lot less money when you're doing other things, you're funding, you're coaching, your ice time, etc. So I guess the issue is like why are athletes in like tennis or in basketball in the NBA and the MLB and the NFL, playing football. Like, why are they making so much money and figure skating is like, nah. And I think it really does again come down to the fact that figure skating is a quite an unpopular sport. I mean, I feel like one obvious example is sponsors in figure skating. Brands are not paying tons of money to get their stuff sponsored in figure skating. I mean, if you look at, I don't know, the NFL, you go to an NFL game, you see advertisements everywhere. You go turn on the TV for an NBA game, you see blah 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 sponsored by blah blah blah. And figure skating is kind of similar. There's, every year they get sponsored by some medication brand or they get sponsored by Kleenex or things like that. But I mean, they're not like Nike, they're not like Adidas, like it's like the money probably isn't really 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 there for a lot of these events. I mean, you look at the billboards around the ISU events. There's cool billboards, there's some brands, some notable brands out there, but they're not like the big box seller, big, big, big brands that are athletic brands and they're sponsoring the NFL, they're sponsoring the NBA, they're la 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 la. That's all I'm trying to say. That's all I'm trying to say. Don't take it wrong. I'm sorry. And so I think that's one reason why figure skating probably has less money, because if less money is going into the business, then of course less money is going to the skaters. There's also the issue, not the issue, but there's also kind of the idea, the thought that a viewership, of course, because when less people are watching figure skating and tickets are not being sold at these, tickets are not being sold at these ISU events, or tickets are not being sold at these IC events. People are not watching online. There's no interest. The social media is not doing well. There's less money going into the sport, right? And the ISU gets their money from these competitions. The ISU gets their money from doing different sponsorships and doing social media as well. I mean, they've been trying to up their social media game and make more money from social media for sure. It's definitely not a ton of money. And apparently they're using AI generated captions and AI generated text summaries or something as well, which is a whole issue in and of itself. But, you know, and so, yeah, what was the other point? So kind of the idea that I want to move on then is that how can there be more money for figure skating so then that there can be more money for the athletes so then that athletes are not, struggling paycheck to paycheck style of how to fund their careers. How can they go from, how can they go from, oh, it's $146,000 for the top single skater and everyone else gets like way less money. Some people are not even making any money at any of the competitions they go to. How can we go from that to like, oh, everyone's doing good, people have funding for themselves, they don't have to rely on donations from the public, they don't have to struggle and have other jobs and everything just to fund their skating career. I mean, I haven't heard personally of of really famous, I don't know what's a good example. I don't know. I haven't heard of a very famous athlete who is like, one of the top skaters in their sport and they don't have enough money to pay for everything. I don't know. Things like that. I feel like figure skating is hit very hard in that sense. And I'm sure in other minor sports as well, sports that don't have large franchises behind them, don't have lots of big media support behind them. I'm sure the issue is very, very similar as well. But when I see $146,000, I'm like, dang, like that's not a lot of money. How can there be more money for figure skating? A lot of it has to do with media attention. I mean, I'm sure that skiers probably make more during the Olympic season. I feel like that's probably a fact. I'm sure. Like, because when you're at the Olympics, the spotlights are on you. Suddenly, everyone wants to do an interview with you. Everyone wants to use your image in their posts. Everyone wants to do different videos with you. Everyone wants to have these different opportunities with you. Everyone wants to sponsor you, right? Like we saw that with Alyssa after the Olympics, and she's getting sponsored by some big brand that I can't remember. We've seen that with a lot of different skaters getting different sponsorships and getting different media opportunities during the Olympics, after the Olympics, etc. With the lead up to the Olympics. I'm sure a lot of them are making more money during the Olympic season than like outside the Olympic season when the spotlights are not in figure skating. And that's just unfortunately the way of the world. When you make more money, when people are paying more attention to you, and that's just how it is. And it sucks that figure skating isn't like paid attention to all the time. It's really around the Olympic time that figure skating is getting the big spotlight, the big lights shining on it. and everything. And I'm willing to bet some skaters have made more money from all these media appearances than they have from just skating and winning competitions. It's crazy. Yeah. When more people watch, more money, obviously. I mean, yeah. I do wonder how much of the share of profits is going towards the skater and how much of the share of profits is going towards the corporations, the companies, the ISU, etc. This has been, I feel like, a big talk and debate in sports like tennis again. Again, I watch tennis sometimes, so I guess I know a little bit more. But tennis players have historically had lots and lots of issues. The pay gap and the pay gap in tennis is quite large between the top 10 in the world and the top 100 in the world, let's say, or the top 1,000 in the world. The pay gap is quite large. I mean, the top players, not skaters, the top tennis players are getting paid a lot of money for winning tournaments, while some players are struggling. They're struggling rackets. They're traveling around public transport. I mean, they don't have the funds to pay for their career, but they really want to play tennis. They are really good big tennis talents who are just not winning enough tournaments to get paid. And the pay gap for being first place and not doing so well is just, it's a lot. The pay gap is a lot, right? And the big conversation in tennis has been to do protests, to do player solidarity kind of things, to kind of um, push back against the large tennis federations, the Grand Slam organizers, tournament organizers, and to hopefully, and I mean very hopefully, demand more pay for tennis players. And so, and that's a really big statement, I feel like, because excuse me, if the players don't feel like they're getting paid well and they're doing all these protests and they're kind of backlashing against the big federations and the big organizers, the big tournaments, etc., I think that does make a really big, and I mean a really really big message towards everything. And figure skating, I feel like it's kind of different. Of course, I feel like it's not, maybe, I don't know, figure skating, I feel like, is a lot more disconnected maybe within all of the figure skaters who, a lot of tennis is like connected all the time in the sense that these competitions are happening every single week. A lot of people are traveling to the exact same competitions. You see each other more often, whereas figure skating, I feel like it's a lot less. You go to usually different competitions, but you see a few people here and there. But I don't know if that would ever be able to happen in figure skating, that there would be like a big protest in the sense, not protest, but a big kind of like big blanket statement from the skaters themselves expressing issues with the money in figure skating. And even if they could do that, I don't know if the ISU could do anything about it, because historically the ISU has not been very financially successful, and I'm sure they're trying to use their money to develop things and to put into different resources to help them. But yeah, yeah. Let's just say that. But I will say this kind of episode ends off on a very good note, I guess, because there's been a clear improvement in the sense that the ISU recently at their Congress, you can see at their insideisu.com, whatever, on their big blog or press thing, I don't know, that they are announcing double prize money for figure skaters. And so I don't know exactly what they mean by double prize money, is or if they're just doubling the amount of money in general given during the season, or if they're doubling exactly like the value of money at each podium placement or placement at competition. I don't know how that actually works, but it seems like a good thing. I mean, if you're making 146 a year, 146,000 a year, and that ends up going to, God, 292,000. That's a lot more money, of course, but again, that's if you're winning everything. But we'll see. Maybe they're just saying that they'll expand so that you can get money even if you're outside the top 10 at Worlds, that kind of thing. We'll have to see what the ISU really means by double prize money. because I'm currently unsure about that. But it seems like a good thing. It seems like they're like giving more money. Again, I would love to see an actual percentage of like how much of the profit is being given to the skaters. I would love to see an actual like clear breakdown of that somewhere in the future someday, some financial transparency with the figure skating world, the figure skating community. I would really, really love to see that. But yeah, that's kind of the end of this episode. I mean, I know this episode was kind of like a bag of a can of worms? No, like a bag of mixed vegetables. It was a lot of random different topics, but in general, money in figure skating is limited. Skaters are certainly struggling to pay a lot of funds, unfortunately, and to do their favorite thing in the world, to travel to all these competitions, compete in the sport that they love. Um, and they're certainly struggling with money. A lot of skaters after retirement, choose financially stable things, and they keep money as a big factor in the reason why they're retiring and everything. But yeah, and I think there's definitely improvements that can be made. There's definitely problems that there are that exist in figure skating, but there's definitely improvements that can be made, hopefully in the future, which the ISU has shown. But yeah, that's all for this episode of the Teen Talk Skating podcast. My name is Ango. I hope you enjoyed me ranting about money, 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 and figure skating. I will see you next week. We're either doing a Grand Prix review or we're gonna review everything that happened at the ISU Congress. I don't know which one. It depends on if Grand Prix assignments actually come out or not. But if not, we'll review everything that happened at the ISU Congress just this week, and it will be very exciting. So thank you so much, and bye bye.